The funny thing was that our supplier when we were at Accor for loyalty was Ingenico, who had developed the solution for card reading in the hotels.
That's how you got a job?
Not
Printing on those paper receipts represents 50% of our carbon footprint for our terminal.
What's interesting with this form of digital receipt is they're tying the payment in with the basket data, and that's where everybody wants to go in terms of marketing and in terms of loyalty.
AGEC law actually has many other topics that it's trying to tackle, but regarding the paper receipts, we can hope that it will be a blueprint for the next countries to adopt.
Mm-hmm. Behind every payment, there's a story. Welcome to Ingenious Payments, where each swipe, tap or click sparks a story. With Ingenious Payments, you will meet analysts, engineers and experts decrypting you the different shopping journey, unveiling the tales of every transaction. Hi and welcome to Ingenious Payments. I'm your host Kat, and today we are launching our very first podcast episode, which we dedicate to digital receipts. These digital receipts aren't just an electronic version of a paper slip. They stand at the forefront of your shopping experience as a consumer, fundamentally reshaping how businesses interact with their clients. And here is the exciting part. As we see the number of fintech raises in that space to take digital receipts to places you might not think. To enhance our understanding of this exciting journey, I'll be joined by two remarkable guests. First, we have Mark Dillon, Marketing Director at Ingenico, who will dive deep into the profound influence of digital receipts on payments. He will also unveil innovating banking and merchant strategies. And joining us as well is Benoit Brosse, co-leader of sustainability at Ingenico, who will shed light on the environmental impact of digital receipts. In addition to our insightful discussions with Mark and Benoit, we've also gathered reactions from two specialized partners in digital receipts. We will be sharing excerpts from interviews conducted first with Receipt Hero and also I Hate Receipts, who generously provided us with their perspectives on the challenges and opportunities in implementing digital receipts. So, whether you are a tech enthusiast, a business owner, or a simply curious shopper like me, eager to uncover the secrets of digital receipts from their data magic to the boundless business and sustainability opportunity they bring, you've come to the right place. Magneto, Lucy. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kat. Nice to be here.
We are glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So you are one of the marketing directors at Ingenico,
Yep.
but I've been looking on your LinkedIn profile, like everybody does, these days. And previously you were working at Edenred, and you were a consultant also before, after that. And you've always working in the providing services for merchants, am I correct?
Yeah, my background is consulting. So I started in consulting first in London, then here in Paris, and I moved to what was Edenred, what was originally Ticket Restaurant. So before it became Edenred, and when it was part of Accor Hotels. So I worked with Accor then afterwards, developing loyalty programs for them, which we operated as part of Edenred for Accor, and which we sold on then to other companies. And that loyalty experience and working for merchants was a good background for payments because it's intimately tied in with payments. From a technical point of view, a lot of what we were doing in loyalty was actually built on a payments type model. And the funny thing was that our supplier when we were at Accor for loyalty was Ingenico, who had developed the solution for card reading in the hotels.
That's how you got a job?
Not quite how I got a job, but when when I joined Ingenico, the person who one of the people interviewed me said, "I think we met when you were in Accor." So.
Yeah, well, indeed. I mean, that's what we are going to speak about. You know, you set very well the stage, because couponing and loyalty programs are part of the digital receipts solutions that we see in this space. When I started many years ago, and I will not say the number of years at Ingenico, digital receipt was not such a hot topic. It was in many of the event industry. We could see the topic there, but it has been accelerated. And would you say that it's been accelerated by COVID, for example, or would you say that?
I think there's a lot of things that have happened. I think one of the things about payments is that traditionally it hasn't moved at the same pace, maybe, as some other digital industries. And for all sorts of reasons, partly because it's international, very global, obviously, by definition. Also because there's so many actors involved, and the security and the certification, all that means that it has tended to move at a sort of a slow pace, and that's left everybody time to do things. But since COVID, even payments have moved faster.
Yeah.
And what we find now today is that projects that where people expected 18 months, 2 years, they're expecting now to be delivered in 6-9 months. So compared to some industries, it's still relatively slow, but everything in payments is moving faster, and digital receipts is the example of that. Everybody, you said that we've been talking about it at Ingenico, and companies have been looking at this space for a long time. True. But it's really only in the last 12 to 18 months that it's become an ask, and that the companies are saying, now I want to implement it.
Yeah, we're going to listen to one of your partners called Receipt Hero.
Yep, we know them well.
Yes, and he was actually saying that also because of the French law, the anti-waste law, that has actually is one of the causes that accelerated the adoption. So let's make a pause. We're going to listen now to Receipt Hero, and I want your reaction from what he says about the law and also the enrollment when you want to have a digital receipt. Magneto Lucie. Recently, especially in France, for example, there has been the regulation putting pressure to stop doing the printing receipts. And that's where you come in, because your solution provides a solution to answer this. So would you say that what's going on, is it a sort of trend that you will see happening across Europe or globally around the world?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now in France with the new regulation anti-waste law that comes into force in April this year, I think that's sort of a rippling effect now across Europe. So essentially what the bill is sort of requiring merchants to do is to stop systematically printing not just the cash register long slip of paper, but also the payment card terminal slip, so typically the smaller stub of paper. So a customer needs to ask for that. Essentially what it would mean for 99% of maybe merchants now is that they're not going to have a post-purchase interaction with the customer. So the typical handing over of the paper receipt after the payment's gone through is going to slightly disappear. We do think there's going to be an opportunity now that a digital receipt is still sent to the customer. Of course, there's email receipts and SMS receipts, which are what we like to call version 1 of what we do. And what essentially kind of enables us and sort of supports us is the Ingenico platform. So we can identify a customer in store against an Axiom payment terminal on PPAS.
Yes.
And we can enroll that customer in store to digital receipts.
This is a good point, the enrollment. But not everybody has an email address, for example. So how does it work if you go in store and you can't get your receipt printed?
So our model is that we partner up with issuers, fintechs, even a retailer who has their own application. The cardholder will typically enroll their card into those applications. So whether it's a bank app, they might be presented with a dialog box that says, would they like digital receipts if we've got the integration with that issuer? If they hit yes, then in the background, we're receiving their card information. So when they're actually in in the store and they're sort of at an activated merchant location that wants digital receipts sent to their customer, we then of course deliver that in real time against the payment card. So it's a different model to your typical, hey, what's your email address or what's your phone number, and then I can send you something. It'll all be done seamlessly at the checkout, so there's no delay. Yeah, friction. Yeah, so there's no queues being generated because someone's trying to spell Chris's really long email address or understand what maybe a phone number is to identify. So it's all seamless. It's really slick and enabled by Ingenico PPaaS platform, which is great. So
Mark, what's your reaction when Chris says that we don't need to give our telephone number, we don't need to give our email address? It's all already embedded, and we get data. Then we unlock the data, and you can get your receipt easily. What could you say about data security or data storage?
A lot of what's happening in payments in store is driven by payments online, and I think it's worth taking a short pause just to look at what that means. What the online payments experience, and it's obviously going to be different to what happens in store, but what it's done is it's created an expectation among clients for a way of doing things and for a customer experience that's very fluid, that's very smooth, that they only give data that they have to give, necessary for the transaction. The days where you filled in the formulaire and you gave everything about who you were and your family and all that, they're finished. It's all down to now GDPR, basic data, whatever is necessary for the transaction, and no more. So obviously, in the in-store experience, it's got to be the same. You're not going to give your mobile number unless there's a reason to do it. So anybody who can bypass that by coming in with new ways, QR codes are an obvious one, NFC is another, and getting that receipt out to you is obviously going to be a winning proposition. Some people are happy to give their mobile phone. Some people are happy to use email because it's the only way that they can do it. But I agree completely that the data and data protection and how we store that data is going to be critical in getting adoption of digital receipts.
Yeah, and we will see later another of your partners called I Hate Receipts.
Mm-hmm. It's a great name.
Yes, actually, I hate myself receipts. So it says what's on the can, which is very funny. But we're going to speak about merchant strategies behind that by unlocking data. But what I wanted to ask you is that you have many partners, but you also have a solution on digital receipts. So how does that work?
So one of the big changes in business over the last 10 years with digital is the opening up of ecosystems. The idea that you worked exclusively, that you only did your own solution, or that you had to build it yourself. That's all gone. Everybody is saying, Receipt Hero, I Hate Receipts. These guys are going to do something which is far richer for a sub-segment of merchants than Ingenico is ever going to do. Why? Because that's their business. That's their core business. Our core business is making that available to merchants and through our acquirers. Because as you know, Ingenico doesn't go directly to merchants in most cases.
Yeah.
We go through an acquirer or through somebody else. So we make the ability to connect with them easy for our clients and for that to happen at the point of sale. So Ingenico is the first port of call when it comes to payments in store. We're the leader in in-store payments terminals, so we get the transaction. So it's easy for us to produce in the same way as today we produce a paper receipt. It's easier for us to produce a payment receipt for the bank transaction. But that's different to what companies like I Hate Receipts and Receipt Hero are doing, which is starting with that, but also taking it out further, capturing more data, capturing basket data from the merchant, and then using that to do promotions. Right?
Yeah, because we're gonna listen now Ryan Green from I Hate Receipts, who actually says that transaction now will become a functionality of a point of interaction with the consumer.
Yeah.
From the moment he pays
right.
in the merchant, and from the moment he leaves the shop. And he does a great analogy with how he wouldn't have met his wife if she didn't have a telephone number, for example. So let's listen to Ryan Green. One fact that I didn't know is that receipts enabled you to meet your wife.
Yes, they did. We met at a party, and at the end of the party, I asked for her number. And just imagine if I wouldn't have asked for her number and just said bye and see you later.
Yeah.
Well, in today's environment, that's happening every day with a merchant as a consumer is walking out the door because the consumer is not getting the digits. I mean, the merchant's not getting the digits of the consumer.
Yeah.
Like my buddies back in the day used to say, get her digits. That was the phrase, right?
Yeah.
And so what we enable merchants to do is get the digits of the consumer. Because we believe that interaction, right, that the last word that is said to a merchant, to a consumer every day is receipt. Is how would you like your receipt, or do you want your receipt? And then the consumer's walking out the door, and then the merchants are spending a lot of money to try to get them back in the door. Last year alone, there was $35 billion spent in mobile ad spend.
Wow.
And so they're trying to create that flywheel effect, right? What we do is we open up that data that's currently trapped on paper and emailed receipts, and we create a mobile-first model that allows every phone to be connected to every terminal. So that's our big vision.
So what's your reaction when you hear that? Because from your time at Edenred with paper coupon to now having consumers becoming ambassadors of their brand, there's a huge gap, and yet not that many years.
So one of the things is that the basic payment transaction, where all you've got is the amount, the date, maybe the name of the merchant that it's being spent in, is very limited. You can only do so much with that. What's interesting with this form of digital receipt is they're tying the payment in with the basket data, and that allows them to do an awful lot more. And that's where everybody wants to go in terms of marketing and in terms of loyalty, which is to tie it into specific items, and not just I spend €100, I get 10 points, and at the end of the year I get a general, I might get something out of it or not. If you can tie that into the specific articles, then you're getting into something which is really rich and really real, which of course the supermarkets in France have been, and everywhere have been doing for a long time, because that's how their loyalty systems work. Is they take all the basket data and they bonus you based on the basket data. But doing that with small merchants has always been complex, and that's what these guys like I Receipts are doing. Is they're bringing that into smaller merchants. And that opens up huge possibilities, whether it's for the brands themselves, so the Unilevers who can start saying to a small merchant, I'm actually going to bonus your customers based on buying my brand, and you don't need to have a great big complicated management system to do that, because I can run it through your payment terminal, or obviously for other retailers who may have slightly more sophisticated systems, but who can also use that moment of interaction at the point of payment to really create something rich with their customer. And that's a real change, because the payment act in a store today, apart from, and I'm talking about smaller stores, I'm not talking about the big retailers or specialized retailers, but in smaller stores, the payment act is very basic.
Yes. You
put your card, you might show your wallet. How many people really use their digital wallet? Payment transaction has been very basic in most merchants, and if you're trying to do loyalty or to generate some sort of a relationship with your customer, it has to become something that's where they feel that at the point of payment that something is happening. And what we're doing, and what Ingenico is doing, is opening up those possibilities and making that easier for partners like I Hate Receipts to come in and operate that at the terminal, and it's a win-win for everybody.
And how would you imagine the adoption? I mean, would you say that for social commerce, like we were saying, that you can share via a link from your transaction what you bought with your community?
I think that's. I mean, it's a segment of the market. Not everybody's going to do it. Am I going to share what I bought
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Would I do it? It's not the way that I think or operate or work.
So you're more Facebook than Instagram.
No comment.
Okay.
No comment. But it's but of course that's the way that a lot of people that a lot of people work. And there are lots of practical things about it. One of the things, for example, is we've all bought stuff in the past, and then we realize we need to bring it back to the store. Can we find the receipt? Well, of course we can't find the receipt, because who keeps every receipt that they get? So you store that digitally. You can go back. You can prove that the payment happened. You can, and they can make that a completely digital experience for you. They can say, so you bring it back. You bring your item back. You show the receipt. It allows them to track the receipt in their system. Because you've got the digital payment receipt, also they can cancel that or do a reimbursement on that without you having to show the original card. So there are all sorts of things opened up through the digital receipts that we don't even imagine yet.
Okay, great. So I like to finish my interviews with what I call the interview "Let the cat out of the bag."
But you're a cat, no?
Yeah, great spot. So it's short questions, and I want to have a short answer. Okay, just to know you a little bit more. Spotify or Deezer?
Apple Music.
Okay. Well, then I know the answer for the next one. Instagram or Facebook?
Twitter.
Okay.
I'm not being very helpful, am I?
No. But because this is our first podcast, my question is, what podcast do you listen?
No, that's a good question. So I listen a lot to the BBC.
Okay.
Which I still think produces some great podcasts.
Mm-hmm. On what topics?
History, politics, music. They're pretty good. I like also like some of the true crime stuff can be really good.
And you like to investigate.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're my favorite podcasts.
Okay. This is because you've been living in France for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you bring? What did you bring here to move to France?
So there are three answers to that. First, I came for 2 years, and I'm not going to say how long I've been here.
But
it was a long time ago. The 2 years turned into a very long time.
Yeah.
Secondly, the official answer is I came because I was consulting in an office in London, and they wanted somebody for Paris, and I said, yeah, I'll do that for 2 years. And the real reason is I came for the food.
Ah, really? Well, that's a good answer. Yes. So, are you more Shakespeare or Émile Zola?
I'm more Shakespeare.
Ah, okay. 15 de France or Red Rose?
I'm Irish. So what do you expect?
Yes. If you had the opportunity to spend a coffee or lunch or even a dinner with a celebrity, who would you spend that moment with?
Alive or dead? Depends.
Up to you.
So I just finished reading Orson Welles' biography.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm not sure if coffee would have been his thing. I think he might have been more something a little stronger. But
yeah, exactly.
But I think I think you could spend a very entertaining hour or two with Orson Welles.
And what would you speak about with him?
Oh, I think we'd have lots to talk about. About what how come when you're 24 and you make what's probably considered to be the greatest film ever.
Yeah.
How do you spend the rest of your life trying to keep up with them?
Okay. If you were given the choice of a weekend getaway, would you go to a very tech-centric experience in a city like Tokyo or New York? Or would you go for a treehouse cabin deep in the forest with no Wi-Fi, no phone, and free from the modern world?
I'm more big city, so I would go.
Really? Okay.
Tokyo, New York would be just fine. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mark, for being with us on this very first episode of Ingenious Payments, and we're going to follow you because you write a lot of blogs for Ingenico, and actually one related to digital receipts. And I'm going to give the voice to one of your colleagues, Benoit Brosse, because you were speaking about all the receipts that are going to be stored in our mailbox, in our SMS messages, and they are concerned about, from a sustainability point, paper versus digital. And this is something that we're going to discuss with Benoit, and so stay with us. Benoit will join us in a minute. Thank you, Mark, for being with us today.
Thanks, Kat.
Hi, Benoit. I mean, today, new day, a new guest. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kat.
You're welcome. So you work at Ingenico, and you are part of the sustainability team, but you've been at Ingenico for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working for Ingenico for 20 years approximately.
Yeah, that's
various jobs. But I've only recently joined the sustainability team 4 years ago.
So why this move?
Well, probably the need in my life to
a crisis of of being 40.
Yeah.
But
no, I have 2 girls.
yes.
I'm very conscious about their future, and I needed a change in my life in order to just have a more meaningful job, try to have some positive impact, even though maybe little, but at least trying to act.
We spoke with Mark Dillon about digital receipts and the benefits in terms of business, but with you we are going to speak about the environmental impact of those small paper slips that we often forget them or throw them into the bin, but they have a huge impact in regards with whether it's the volumes, but also in terms of carbon footprint. Can you tell us more about that?
Indeed, Kat, as you mentioned, the paper that is actually used by our terminals has a huge environmental impact. You can consider the forest, the wood you're going to use, transform it into paper. You need water, lots of water, chemicals, and then the paper will be transported to the merchant.
Yeah, there are the factories that produce those receipts, the paper, the receipts. But Ingenico doesn't produce those paper.
The production is outside of our range, but we do provide those paper rolls, and they have to be. The transport from after production, those paper rolls are brought to our merchant before they are being used again.
And indeed, before we continue, I'd like you to hear from Ryan Green, who is one of the co-founders of I Hate Receipts, who actually gave a good example of the impact in his country, in the United States. Well, we've seen also in the markets the new anti-waste law asking to remove printable receipts unless the consumer asks for it. So obviously this is going to change a little bit or accelerate a little bit this area. So how do you feel about that?
Yes, I think it's a great goal to have, is to get to net zero for our carbon footprint. Now, we obviously still have a carbon footprint because we're storing it digitally, but it's less than a footprint that you have with a paper receipt. So we are from America. We are based in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So if you took the number of paper receipts that are thrown away in 1 year, just in America alone, it would cover half of California, half of the state of California.
Okay.
So in 20 years, it would cover the whole country. So what we want to do is take away paper receipts. It is a fax machine in 2023. It does not make sense, right?
Yeah.
We want to accelerate that with our partner with Ingenico by taking into a mobile first model and connecting every phone to every device.
So you just heard about Ryan and who actually gave an outstanding representation of the impact of the receipts. So what's your reaction?
Well, it's hard to say, at least hard to be precise, but I mean, for common assumptions, one merchant, small merchant, would do probably 50 transactions a day, so print about 10 meters of paper per day.
10 meters?
Yeah, and that's for a small merchant. So for a large retailer, multiply it.
Because there are 3 types of receipts, right?
Yeah, you've got the transaction for the merchant receipt, the transaction receipt for the cardholder, and then there's the basket
The
sleeve.
invoice.
Yeah.
And the 10 meters
10 meters is only for the merchant and the cardholder's receipt. So
alone.
yeah.
Okay, that's quite impressive. So I can't even imagine, or probably perhaps you have the data, but I can't even imagine in for large retailers, if you go to those large supermarkets with lanes of
Yeah, I don't
cashiers.
I don't have the data because it's all about how much
Number of transactions.
you multiply it. But just imagine maybe twice or 3 times as much as transaction, multiply it by several lanes.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
Mm.
And we briefly spoke about the production, but there are the chemicals. We can read in anywhere. It's everywhere in the internet. But those papers can be dangerous. I mean, not in France because they removed the.
Yeah, in France, I mean the bisphenol that are into the paper have been removed. I mean, bisphenol A have been removed a few years ago, but mostly replaced by bisphenol S.
Okay.
That should be removed also pretty soon. But I mean, the merchants are buying their paper rolls out of any market that we don't have control on. So maybe they do have bisphenol A or S in their own paper receipts.
Yeah, and the amount of water that includes to create those papers.
Definitely, that's part of the overall environmental impact that I meant.
And then this is one part, the production of the paper and the volume it represents. But then there is also the carbon footprint impact.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have, I mean, it's all about assumptions, but according to our hypothesis, it represents approximately 50%. I mean, printing on those paper receipts represents 50% of our carbon footprint for our terminals.
Okay,
So
that's
switching,
quite a lot, yeah.
Switching from a paper receipt to digital receipt. Once again, depending on the scenario that we'll choose, we'll probably have us gain by 3 times or up to 8 times minimize the amount of carbon footprint we produce.
So, I mean, Ryan mentioned it, you know, about the new law, the anti-waste law in France.
Mhm.
So what do you think? I mean, obviously it's a great news to push for this, for pushing people not to request the receipt. But how do you? First of all, what's your thought about it, and also how do you perceive, or how would you anticipate the adoption?
Well, I would say, well, we'll hope for the best. In Europe, France a few times has been the first to start.
Mm-hmm.
This AGEC law actually has many other topics that it's trying to tackle, but
Okay.
Regarding the paper receipt, we can hope that it will be a blueprint for the next countries to adopt.
Mm-hmm. So, however, having this alternative of a digital receipt, because this is what it's all about today, so this digital form of the receipt, wouldn't it create more CO2 emissions?
Well, no, that's what I just mentioned. As Ryan said, it will not cancel all the emissions.
No, we won't get a net zero carbon footprint.
Yeah,
I
so
think there is no solution.
There will be digital storage of the receipts.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so there will remain some emissions that are related to the data centers and the storage of the receipts. But according to our estimation, I mean, worst scenario is probably having an email sent to your mailbox and keeping this email for 10 years. But if we do have we approximate the gain between 3 times and 8 to 10 times today, and we hope that the technology will still get better in the future. But we know that even though there will remain an impact, I mean, the improvement will be quite satisfying. And as you mentioned, it's all about how you adopt the feature. That means you have to wonder who's going to adopt it first, and also, is it going to change the behaviors? I mean, some old habits are having people print their tickets, wondering, I don't know, check those on their monthly budget to know if I mean they're changing their expenses. I think that the young population, for example, young persons are totally digital. They are not used to, I mean, using those paper tickets. They just throw those away.
Yeah, they're very digital native. Yeah.
I would say that for any new feature or new technology, I mean, we rely on what we call early adopters to make the switch and change to new behaviors. So if you add up the youngsters, those early adopters, and probably all the persons who are today paying with their wallet, you have a large collection of people who already adopted actually the technology. So
yeah, but are we going to? Because we all often say that the pandemic, accelerated those trends. Are we going to have to wait for another pandemic to adopt?
We are probably more and more impatient. I would say the adoption of this new, it's just a feature, okay? It's getting rid of your paper receipt, having this new digital receipt, or actually discard it. So as soon as it gets available, and you'll have probably 30-40% of the population who will adopt it immediately, and then the rest will follow. Definitely the rest will follow. And this is my opinion, but it stands for France. And in France, we are under the AGEC law, which is actually already pushing for this digitalization. I would say that the next step for a large major adoption would be new regulations in new countries.
Yes.
So I know that Europe will follow the example of France, or I hope so.
Yes.
And then probably any kind of regulation in another country will cascade.
To turn into a snowball effect.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. There's not only the tech early adopters or the youngsters, but if obviously regulation can see the benefits, at least for the environment, that will definitely accelerate things much faster than a pandemic. Digital receipt is just one part of your job. I mean, it's available on the Ingenico payment terminal,
definitely, yeah.
But it's just one component of the overall goal that you have.
Well, as you mentioned, the digital receipts, I mean, those features are already available on our terminals.
Yes.
So I'm more working on what is the next step.
Which are?
I would say that the very first thing that we have to do at Ingenico is reset our carbon trajectory. So we've been very good for a long time already at measuring our carbon footprint, but now we have to set objectives that are compliant with the Paris Agreement, and then continue and probably accelerate on all the measures that we are taking with our suppliers in reducing their footprint in the production of the terminals, with our transportation in reducing the footprint in our production of our terminal, etc., etc. So,
what's the impact of, for example, transportation to deliver, for example, terminals from the factory, for example?
Well, the impact is mainly depending on whether you choose to fly or to go using sea freight. So it's really...
it all depends on that,
Yeah, it all depends on the choices
and then
you make.
you arrive at the merchant, so it doesn't go anywhere else. So that's why the digital receipt has a bigger carbon footprint impact than the terminal itself.
Definitely.
Great. Well, it's the time for the the quick questions.
Quick question.
Yes, just to know a little bit more about you. So, because you are one of the co-leader of at Ingenico in the sustainability department. Short questions, short answers. Bicycle or scooter?
Bicycle.
Bicycle, yeah. You can today.
Yeah, I rode my bike.
Okay. All year long?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Raining, sunny?
Raining.
Snowing?
Well, snowing. This is Paris.
That's brave. Yeah, only 2 days a year. But when it happens, it's really messy. Well, because it's our first podcast, I've been asking also this to Mark. Spotify or Deezer?
Well, I would say, like Mark, I would say Apple Music.
Okay. So you are Facebook and not Instagram, I would say.
No, I'm neither Facebook nor Instagram, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I got
Twitter.
rid of my social network.
No, not even Twitter, not even...
No.
Okay.
No.
LinkedIn, I guess.
Yeah, LinkedIn. It's
Yes.
professional.
Yeah. Book or e-book?
I like both.
Okay.
I like both. E-book is so easy because it stores many books. You can actually switch from one book to another while you're in the transport or commuting.
And it's greener than having a book.
I don't think so. It's greener having a book. Yeah, I would say you can always share a book. But I like the feeling of the paper still.
Yeah. So do I, to be honest. To be quite honest with you. Half empty glass or half full glass?
It really depends on how well I slept.
This is actually a really good question for somebody who works in sustainability.
Yeah, you have to see it half empty and half full sometimes. So
yes.
Yeah, it's really. I'm a wavy, moody guy.
Yes. So you change depending on the day. So what would impact your day, for example?
How much of a good ride I had in the morning.
Yeah. That will set your day when you're moving for the day.
Did I kiss my daughter goodbye?
Yeah.
Stuff like this.
Okay. Cinema or TV series?
Cinema.
Why?
Why? It's, I would not explain it. It's just I'm not in
you like the experience?
A binge watcher.
Yeah.
I like the cinema being surrounded by only darkness and a very large screen. And I like the fact that it's somehow exceptional. You don't have a theater in your house, but you do have a TV. So
it's for the experience.
Yeah.
And not necessarily for the social impact.
Well, for the social impact, I would say that if you're watching a lot of Netflix, you'll probably stay at your place.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say, that Netflix could kill the cinema, people who prefer to stay at home and watch.
I don't see it this way. I prefer cinema not because it's better than Netflix, just because it's cinema.
Yeah, because of the experience.
Mm.
This is nuclear or coal?
Well, definitely not coal.
Yeah.
I would say nuclear for the transition. I mean, even though it's dangerous, and we don't really know how to handle all the waste. Yeah, we need at least in France. That's the way we chose.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think.
But do you agree with that?
I agree.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with the choice. I mean, at least it gives us some opportunity not to depend on petrol or gas. Yeah. But I think we have to accelerate our transition to renewables
and find other ways of source of energy.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, for what reason would you go for a long haul flight? Did you notice that I didn't ask you? Do you take long haul flights?
Yeah, I try.
For what reason would you?
I try not to. I would say an exceptional event in my family.
Yeah.
I would say a sport event that I would participate at. And maybe seeing a place that I know I will never ever see again.
Okay.
But it's quite complicated actually to enroll. Just buying a plane ticket is always a question I ask myself. Can I actually?
I was about to ask you. Do you
not buy it?
I mean, do you organize your trips with this responsibility in your head, or?
In my family, I'm let's say more aware than others, so I try to push for the solution that has the less impact. Yeah, most of the time we travel by train if we can.
Okay.
But I mean, if you want to go abroad or travel
so
3,000 or 4,000 miles,
so the reasons for you to take a long haul will be
actually work also, if I have to.
Yes.
And I would go for the exceptional event in my family.
Okay, exceptional event in your family could be a very good reason for that. Meetings, we can do them via Teams or Zoom. If you had to choose a celebrity to go for a coffee with, who would you go with?
I don't know, there are several celebrities that are actually personifying ecology but there's probably one I would choose. Recently I read a book from John Scully. John Scully was some kind of marketing genius in the 80s, and he was the CEO of Pepsi.
Yes.
And he was
before he joined.
Before he joined Apple, yeah, he was talked out of his job by Steve Jobs, and I always wonder if one guy who is, excellent. I really think he was a marketing genius.
Okay.
One guy like this is just shifting his point of view and trying to focus on sustainability. What would have happened if? Something like this had happened 30 or 40 years ago, probably the situation would be a lot different.
Yes, for sure. One last question. What kind of podcast or which podcast do you listen? Additionally to Ingenious Payments from now on.
So, Ingenious Payment.
Obviously.
Yeah, and I would say like Mark, I listen to a French podcast from Le Monde called Chaleur Humaine.
Okay.
It's related to any climate topic actually that can come up in everybody's life. Just trying to trying to change our behaviors very simply, try to tackle all the big issue, making small gestures, having a soft shift into the right direction.
Okay.
Chaleur humaine.
Chaleur humaine. Well, we will finish on that note. And it was a pleasure to having you.
Shared.
Yes, thank you. And this is the end of our podcast. I hope that you all enjoyed this podcast, this very first podcast, flagged under the digital receipt realm. And don't forget, because we have this first podcast on the digital receipts that you can listen, but you can also find out more data and information from a blog that signed by you, Benoit.
And my colleague.
Exactly, Xavier Lenné. Where we can find a lot more data, information related to digital receipts.
And perspectives. And
perspectives as well. So do not hesitate to go on our website, check our article, our blog about it. And next time you go for shopping and you ask for your ticket, think twice about what this little paper can have as an impact. And we hope that today, at least, our job was to educate, explain every one of you what difference you can make every day through payments. So thank you, Benoit.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Ingenious Payments. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified of our new episodes. This podcast is brought to you by Ingenico, so follow us on our social media to not miss our news. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also visit us at ingenico.com. And don't forget, stay curious, stay ingenious.